Hey, Dan-Dwayne here. I want to read to you today from my novella, Pawns in the Power of Kings. Now, the whole book is only 135 pages, but I'm not going to read the whole book today. I'm only going to read chapter 1, so it's a short read. It's very suspenseful and mysterious. So, without further ado, chapter 1 of Pawns in the Power of Kings, The Boardwalk, 1 a.m., Saturday, September 5th. Richard Wallace rubbed his throbbing head and pushed himself up into a sitting position. He was on some kind of wooden decking. Nearby lights strung on wires flashed with rhythmic syncopation to warbling carnival music. With determination he crouched and slowly rose to stand. He must have fallen and banged his head on the boardwalk. Holding his arms out seemed to help. Simply standing was more difficult than he had imagined it would be. Think, he commanded himself. What is today? It's early morning on Saturday. He rubbed his head again and took in his surroundings. He was on some boardwalk's abandoned amusement park. He thought it was odd, and more than a little eerie, how the lights of the carnival rides were flashing and gleaming through the fog. The warbly carny music cut through the cool night air and left a macabre feeling that settled on his soul. The entire place was vacant of life except for the animatronics and rides that seemed to be operating themselves. Suddenly a gunshot boomed above the music. With a metallic twang, a bullet dented the metal pole supporting a canopy beside him. He darted between two tinted attractions. Knowing the fabric wouldn't stop a bullet, he hunkered down onto one knee to reduce the size of the target. Following a series of gunshots, he heard the canvas rip. It was close. Too close. His thoughts were muddled. Why couldn't he think straight? Should he run or stay and fight? Somehow he believed he should know this. Surely he had been in dangerous situations before. But this time it was different. He was having a hard time making decisions. If the bells clanging in his head would stop, he could think better. A voice called out from between the fog-covered carny lights. "Ricky! Oh, Ricky! Why do you hide from me? You know you can't get away. Come out. Let's talk things through. You know we're friends. You can rely on me." It was a familiar voice, so why couldn't he put a face with it? Why were clouds of fog building up in his brain? Instinctively he reached for his gun, only to find an empty holster. His thoughts were scattered. Should I take time to look for it, or should I run? The same instinct that made him reach for his gun told him to run. He knew he had to move. Staying in one spot for too long would be fatal. He ran to a wooden booth under the large Ferris wheel. Another bang, and the wall beside his head splintered into 1,000 fragments, spraying his face with wooden needles. The stinging of splinters and dodging of bullets should have energized him with adrenaline, but he still felt sluggish, and his mind was unfocused. The voice yelled, "Richard, you know you can't win. Don't you need to tell me something? I'm listening. Ricky, all this running can stop if you only talk to me. Tell me what I need to know, Richard. I see you." Then another gunshot ruptured the wood over his head, showering him with more splinters. A carny booth with ceramic milk bottles, baseballs, and stuffed dogs stood across the open fairway. He ran for it, stumbling, falling, running, stumbling again, as powerful rifle bullets threw wooden debris into the air directly behind him. He thought to himself, "Safety. This could be safe." He ducked down into the stand and crouched behind the wooden boxes topped with lines of milk bottles. He breathed deeply, trying to clear his thoughts. Above him, ceramic milk bottles exploded one by one. A few more shots, and the air was filled with fluffy pieces of stuffing from the disemboweled plush animals. It was as if the shooter was toying with him, intentionally missing him and purposefully aiming for the defenseless beasts. It all reminded Richard of a video game where the player collects points by making things pop or burst as you play.
"I'm getting tired of this game, Richard. You know what I want," said the voice.
Richard thought to himself, "But I don't know what you want. I can't remember." Then the haze in his head started receding. He remembered why he was there. He remembered what it was the voice wanted, and he also knew that he couldn't give it to him. Too much was at risk. He could feel the cool air blowing through the game booth. A breeze was coming in from somewhere in the back of the tent. It was a rip. How lucky could he be? He scanned the canvas for an opening. There it was, a rip in the bottom of the tent. Richard crawled through it. Behind the ball toss booth was a long, empty area with seats and railings, the wooden decking projecting some 25 yards out toward the sea. He had almost reached the end of the pier. Perhaps on another day fishermen would gather here, or families would sit here to eat carnival corn dogs. But not today. Today the entire amusement park had been converted into a cold and foggy shooting gallery. He thought, maybe there are stairs or a ladder at the end of the pier. It was quite a distance in the open, but maybe, just maybe, it offered him a way of escape. He ran to the far edge of the pier. The fog was not as thick there. He grasped the wooden rail which fenced in the pier and looked over the edge. 30 feet below him, the sea raged with waves, crashing into pilings. It pulled back with white foamy lace floating on top of the water before another wave crashed under him again. In rapid succession, the wood splintered on his right and then on his left. He turned to see his adversary. The flashing glow of the carny lights haloed in the fog as a shadowy silhouette walked across the wooden plateau. The voice said,
"Richard, if I wanted you dead, you would be. This little cat-and-mouse game you have provided was nothing but a small distraction. It's over. Tell me now."
The silhouette walked closer. Richard climbed up onto the wooden railing, his balance wavering as the fog cleared in his mind.
"Ricky, come down from there,"
the voice cried out.
"We have unfinished business to discuss."
Richard uttered the words, "You need me. You'll never figure it out without me," before he lost his balance and hurtled backward into the sea. A quiet splash whispered below before the crash of another wave broke across the pilings. That was Chapter 1 from Pawns and the Power of Kings. Thank you for listening. Pawns and the Power of Kings is available at Amazon.com.